Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to thank Hugo and the family for having us here. So the title of our presentation pretty much says all about it, but we wanted to start with a bit more of take a step back, and first of all, even though Hugo kind of did it, present ourselves. So I'm Aurélie. I've been working at Spotify for a year. I actually relocated to London last year. And working a lot with Stockholm, which is where I met this pretty lady, in the growth team and more especially in the activation team. And then she will present herself.
So I'm Charlotte. I'm a product owner for the mobile conversion team in the growth team in Stockholm. And I'm based in Stockholm and came here for this. Really great to be in Paris and really great to be here. And even though I got a French name, I'm sticking with English tonight.
See? Good job. Okay, so we're going to start with a few numbers about Spotify, now that we've talked about us. So Spotify is 16 million monthly active users. We now have 15 million subs, and we are in 58 markets. And overall, we gave back to the music industry over 2 billion USD. A bit more about the growth team. So the growth team at Spotify is we're about 30 people. We focus on many things, but the four main teams are focused on activation, partnership, acquisition, activation, retention, and conversion. And tonight we're going to focus mainly on activation. And activation for us is pretty much focused on engagement. And now I think this is you.
Yes. Which button is it? Aurélie, don't bring that. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to talk about how we do things at Spotify. So that means how do we build products? So how do we go from idea to something that is actually in the hand of our users? And this might not be revolutionary because I think that anyone that has done any kind of product will recognize the faces and the things that we're doing. But this is how we talk about it at Spotify, and this is the language we're using and how we're thinking about it. And afterwards, Aurélie will show how we're using this in the growth team. So this is where we start. Data. We got lots and lots of data, as most companies out there. We have Europe's largest Hadoop cluster. We have a consumer insights team. We have a user research team that talk to users every day. And there's just lots of it. So data, we're always on the lookout for qualitative and quantitative information that can fuel product improvements. But with all this data, you finally end up in a situation where you ask yourself, what does this mean? And that's the right question to ask, because data in itself doesn't really mean anything other than bragging rights to Hadoop enthusiasts, which this large Hadoop cluster really brings attention to. So this is what it's all about. It's the insights. So insights, that's how we interpret the data. And understanding of what the data really means. So once we got an insights, we know something about how the user behaves and what they think and maybe what problems they got. So when we got these insights, we start believing things. And those beliefs form the foundation of our bets. So what does a bet sound like? It sounds something like this. We should, and then the bet. So over the years at Spotify, we've said we should create a mobile free tier, and we did. And we should rebuild our sign-up flow, and we've done that too. And we should launch podcasts, which we announced last week. So it's basically a high-level product bet, or a high-level product idea that is a bet. So how this comes together is this. From data, we derive insights that create beliefs, and based on our beliefs, we form bets. So what's really interesting at Spotify is how serious we are about this, because We can have a lot of ideas and a lot of bets that we say we should do this, but before actually moving into building something, we really make sure to nail this. So, and this is not a structured process in any way, this is something ongoing. So it's when we're looking at our dashboards and discussing ideas with colleagues, we say like, oh, we should do this. But before moving into building, we ask ourselves, okay, what's the data, insights, and beliefs behind this? So sometimes you have a bet, like we should really do this, but then when you go look for the data, there's nothing to support that we should do it. Or you have data that we should do, data that you think leads to a bet, but when you actually start discussing your interpretation of the data, it turns out that you just got the wrong insights. So nailing data, insights, beliefs before moving forward is something that we find really important, and the reason for this is that we want to go for the right bets. So when we got a bet, this is where we go. Think it, build it, ship it, tweak it. Got exact split there. If you ever get the chance to visit a Spotify office, you will see that this is written all over the walls, because this is our lingo, and this is in the terms that everyone is talking. So we start in the think it, and this phase is all about figuring out what we should build. So there are a few activities going on in this phase. We create hypotheses, meaning that we start talking about what do we think we can achieve and what should we build and what should we do for this bet. Second, we define metrics to really think through what are the metrics that we want to move with this. And third, we start prototyping. So we use paper, code, mock-ups, designers, everything, and try to get it in front of real users as soon as possible so that we can actually settle for a few alternatives that we want to move forward with. So the outcome of the think it phase, two things. We want to nail the product vision. And the product vision, in this phase, we say that we should be able to write the press release for the product we are about to build. Because when you write the press release, you know why you're doing it, and that is what you want to get out of the product vision. You know why you're doing it and what the user benefit is. And second, as I mentioned, we create the prototypes that we believe in and that we feel like this is really what we should build. When we got that, we moved to the build it. And important note here is that it's not like we have this growth team of 30 business people that do the thinking, write the requirements, and then pass it on to the developers. We have designers, developers, business people, everyone involved in throughout this process. So it's still the same team, but now we're building it. So this is a classic MVP, minimum viable product, or the question that it's supposed to answer is what is the least amount of stuff that we can build to achieve our product outcome. And this one is quite tricky because it's about building something that moves metrics, but at the same time you want to move fast. And when I started as a PO about 1 year ago, I read a lot about this and thought that this MVP thing, that's the one thing I should be really good at, defining the MVP. And I read that the most common problem was scope creep, meaning that you invest too much dev time in something that is actually just a test. But working in the growth team, it's the other way around. We are super keen on moving as fast as we can while still having these high expectations and moving metrics. So I think that we more than once shipped a minimum viable product less than minimum. So I got some advice from a more senior product manager that I should, rather than thinking of it as a product, because I think it's the product in MVP that is confusing, because a product feels like something complete, something that you can use. To rather think of it as an MVE, minimum viable experiment. And so rather than think of it as a product, think of it as what is the least amount of stuff I can build to test and prove my bet. And I think this aligns better with how we're thinking about products at Spotify, because all products are just tests until we know that users actually love them. So we got something that we're confident in that this is something we should roll out. Then we ship it. And the best way to notice when you walk around the office to notice that a team has just moved for the ability to ship it is that they're drinking champagne. And even though we don't know if the product is working yet, but it's a good time to celebrate, and we're really good at celebrating victories, and shipping something and getting something in the hands of users is really one thing to celebrate. So we always start by rolling out something slowly. So we roll out to about 1 to 5% before scaling up. And you might have seen the press conference that we had last week, where Daniel Ek presented a lot of news. So some of the things, like for example the start page, the new start page that we will be rolling out, it has actually been tested by thousands of users already, because we want to be sure that what we're doing is the right thing. So the ship it is about answering these kinds of questions. Did we change user behavior in the way we desired? And did we move the metrics we defined? So overall, did we achieve the goals that we defined in the think it phase? And sometimes we don't. And then we go back to thinking and building, like iterating, how can we improve this, and do that until we scrap it completely or move on. But if we finally actually prove our hypothesis and move the metrics in the way that we want, we move on to the next phase, we ship it to 100%, and we drink more champagne. So then we get to the tweak it phase. And the tweak it, this is where we spend most of our time because we can't innovate all the time. So this is where most developers spend all of the time. And it's all about optimizing the products we got. And how do you know if you should keep tweaking or if you should re-engage through the think it phase? We think about it in this picture. So when you shipped something, let's see if I can point it out, you're kind of down here and you're moving towards, exactly, you're a bit taller. You're moving towards this little hill, this local maximum, and that's where tweaking goes. And you try to get this better experience. But then someone comes along with new data and new insights and new beliefs and say that, hey, we have this bet and it's this hill or maybe mountain over there. And that's what we should be aiming for. So once we got a new bet in place that we think will take us higher than what we're right now optimizing and tweaking for, then we re-engage in this whole process with thinking to get to new heights. To sum it up, we have this bet based on data, and once everyone believes in it, everyone's on, we think it, build it, ship it, tweak it, and that's how we build products at Spotify. And I'm gonna leave it to Aurélie to show how we actually use this.
Really? Yeah, stand up. Okay, so I'll get into a concrete example of how we all used all that. Shall I explain? Just a quick note. So engagement is really important at Spotify. We do have a team for it, and even though it's already pretty good, so it's 148 minutes that every user worldwide spend on Spotify every day, it doesn't mean that we should stop there. And so the challenge that we have as an activation team is actually how to get more of those low engaged users engaged. So quick reminder, but that was a second ago, so I'll pass. Start with the betted. So how do we actually get those low users to be more engaged? So first step would be actually to take a good look at what already exists and how the user signs up and what communication we have with them. So I hope that all of you, or 90% of you, have the Spotify app. But so you go from sign up, we have usually a little interstitial that features something new, and then you land on browse. And then if you're lucky and you actually click on the playlist, you actually get to play something. On the communication side, as soon as you sign up, we send you an email, welcome email. If you take the trial to try premium, then we send you a couple of emails to explain to you how the premium works and what benefits you get that you don't get for free. And fortunately, you actually stay premium, or you keep using our awesome mobile free app. So that being said, what can we improve? Because from data, we actually see that some of our users don't actually play music on day one, which is the main purpose of the app. So we believe that from the data, we should actually teach the user how to start with Spotify, because we believe that a user should actually experience to learn. And we also believe that increasing engagement will actually increase conversion. And then what's the bet? So the bet to increase engagement would be, we want to increase by guiding the user through the app on their first day as soon as they sign up and download the app. And now that we have this down, we move on to actually think it. So think it, prototyping, defining the user goals. And the user goals in this scenario is actually, we want every user to actually understand the product, create their own experience, and we also want them to understand the difference between free and premium. And in order to do that and to define if anything that we're going to launch as an MVE or an MVP is a success, we need to actually have a list of metrics that we want to track. And in this case, we mainly follow like very classic metrics, but that actually indicates what we want to achieve if it's a success. And it's our AAR metrics, acquisition, activation, retention. Basically MAUs, who plays music on day one, and trial uptake. And the second thing, because we want the user to understand the product by teaching him, we want feature uptake. So in this experiment, we want to see if they've saved songs from listening to them. And then we go to what did we actually build to challenge that bet. So first, we decided that we want to actually tutor the user as soon as they land on the app how to use it. So this is the first mock-up, very quick. We want them to see that they can slide up and down to find content. As soon as they find a playlist and click on it, we want to focus on where they should actually tap. And this might sound really easy, but most of us are in tech, and it probably sounds really simple. But think of your mother, your aunt, or your 12-year-old sister who doesn't know how to use it, and she will actually need this. And so they need guidance to actually know where to click, and then to know that whatever they're playing is actually showing up there. The other thing that we wanted to tackle as well was to improve the welcome email, to actually map exactly what we do with the in-app about teaching. So we wanted to test that, to focus the welcome email on teaching. So in-app we just see, and email we decided we wanted to try two hypotheses. One based on teach, so we actually have animated GIF that actually shows the user exactly what they should do. And the second thing that we decided to test is, can we get the user by inspiring him with content to actually get him to play something? This way. Now that we have this nailed down, we should actually move to building this. Building this, so define the MVP or the MVE. And the objective is that we want to prove that by the in-app tutorial that we built, we can actually get the user to play something, and on the email to actually understand how to use it. And this is a zoom in of actually the bigger picture that we drew from the Think It phase that actually mapped the communication plan and tutorial plan that we had for the first 30 days. I'm zooming in on the first week of what we wanted to do. So up there you have emails. We worked on 3 main emails, and down there you have all the tutorial tooltips that we pushed on the app. And we decided that for an MVP, we just wanted to focus on one feature. So that meant not 3 emails to push how to play, how to browse, and how to save an album, but just how to teach, 1, 2, 3, how to actually play, and same for the in-app tutorial. And what does it look like? So what we actually built, and for anybody who actually downloads Spotify tonight, you'll have that. So when anybody signs up, land on the browse page, we actually highlight 2 playlists, pushing them to actually click on them. Then have another tooltip that highlights the shuffle play, and another tooltip that highlights the now playing bar. And for the emails, kind of what I explained, we had 2 type of emails. The one on the left doesn't show, but the image is actually an animated GIF that pushes you and teaches you how to play. And this one is just full of content to show you the joy of shuffle playing. And now that we know this, so we launched it to a few percentage of users in Sweden and the US. And so what did we test? This is very simple, but we always do MVPs and so A/B testing. So for the in-app tutorial, we only had group A and control. And for the emails we had, because we had 2 hypotheses, then this looked like this. But most importantly, what are the results? So results were that, according to the metrics that we decided to follow, we actually increased the number of MAUs, number of play day 1, trial uptake stays stable, we don't want that to decrease, and feature uptake increased in saving songs. On the email test, we did not do as good. So this is to go back to Charlotte's point, where what did we do next? We decided that the in-app tutorial, we would move it to the next phase, which is actually tweaking it. And the teach email, we actually are going back to thinking it, because we're not satisfied. And tweak it, last but not least, you can actually see up there that other teams from other features at Spotify are actually using what we built for the tutorial. And up there you have a feature that's called Audio Touch that shows you a video actually when you tap it. And the second one is payment failure, when you want to go back to actually being premium and you can't be anymore. And that's it for us. Thank you.